I want to try to get into this credit invisible population, let's say the young population, for example, right?
Yeah.
But at the moment, I mainly access credit bureau data, right? Which is the opposite of credit invisible. I think when we say credit invisible, we mean they wouldn't have a credit bureau. How would I go about it? What steps would I take to get from here to actually, let's say I want to create a new product or, new product offering, new channel, let's say for the young population that are quote credit invisibles. How would I tackle that?
So let me start. And then I'll hand over to Tarun. The thing is, it's got to be a no-fuss approach to banking. I want to be able to, from my device, 24/7, be able to, in 5 or 6 clicks, go through the entire journey of getting myself verified, getting my account opened, and getting my virtual credit card issued to me. Right. So I think what a lot of these legacy banks have is they don't. How can I word this in a very diplomatically correct way? All right. So
it's a safe space. It's a safe space here, Riaz.
Right. So their journeys are not easily geared toward this type of lending, and a lot of them are making significant effort in getting there. Right. So I think what you need to think about is making sure that I can have from my first interaction on the app to my final loan or credit card being ready, in 7 to 8 clicks, I should be done without having to go to a branch, pull this document, get that verified, etc., etc. So this entire journey needs to be redefined in terms of how I do lending.
Yes, we didn't script this, we didn't plan in advance, but I want to thank you for that answer because, I always feel like there's only one way to go with these situations is to go back and rebuild the customer experience. Start there. So I think,
absolutely.
I think for some people, those words just sound vague. They don't know what that means. So when we say you have to reimagine and redo your whole customer experience, I think sometimes it's hard for people to imagine what that means or what it looks like. So I think your description that you just gave was exactly that, right? Rethink it. The customer needs to be able to pick up their phone and accomplish this thing in 5-6 clicks. Compare that to how it's currently done. So I think that's absolutely a great starting place for an institution because there are some fantastic fintech UX, user experience and customer experience expertise out there. And, you can throw them at this problem. And then once you have a customer experience, then we turn our attention to you, Sir Tarun. Then what do? I suppose I need to do something with the data, don't I?
Yeah. So, I think I would also want to touch upon a point I think briefly I touched upon in the webinar. There are 2 segments of people who are looking to consume finance and lending in its current shape and form. One is the one where Riaz very accurately articulated. They are looking at an amazing customer journey, minimum number of clicks. I want my services to the best frictionless environment. Then there is one segment which is credit deprived. It is credit hungry. It is credit excluded. They want a good user experience. They don't mind instead of 8, you take 10 clicks. They don't mind if you take some additional data of theirs with the hope that they would get credit. They are ready to click on it. Okay, I'm ready to share more information about my behavioral patterns from my smartphone in case it helps you to assess me better because they know they are financially excluded. Mm-hmm. In the webinar, we also touched upon women entrepreneurs who are in need of credit, but they are being excluded. Are they looking for a good customer experience? Yes. But what they're looking for is credit. So while we need to invest on the user experience and everything, that's actually a must. But what this other segment is looking for, ready to share their additional data. And that is where companies like BankersLab come in, because we say we could possibly make sense of that behavioral smartphone usage pattern data, which you consent to share with us. And we could come up with scores and algorithms which would let the lender know what could be the likelihood of receiving the money back. The traditional ways have always focused on your ability to repay. In this new segment, believe me, intent is an equally important aspect, and that's where we step in. Now, would you ever give someone a loan because they have the right intent and no ability? Of course not. So ability and intent need to coexist. They need to balance. And this is where I think alternative database scoring is here to stay for the longer run, because it just complements the existing traditional sources and is solving a real life use case and a problem.
So let's say I'll stay in my shoes of an incumbent lender and I'll be skeptical. I'll be like, oh, I don't have a credit bureau data. How can I possibly do this? Give us more flavor of how that data works for you. I mean, did you just look at my phone and see I have a bunch of gambling apps and determine that I'm probably not I don't have the intent to repay? I mean, give us, I think people are always curious to hear more about that data and how it really works.
Yeah, you make a good point. If you have a gambling app on the phone, there are two ways to look at it. One is if there are unethical SDKs on your phone or on the app, they would probably know are you winning or losing in gambling because they track you in the app. The
Right.
Qarar model is that I would know you have 2 gambling apps, 5 gaming apps, 2 dating apps, and 10 banking apps. But what are your account balances? Whom are you dating? How much did you lose? I don't know. I will just know that is your behavior. What we then do is to make sure we analyze this behavior against your cohort in that market. And if everybody who pays back their loan also seem to have more gambling app on the phone, then it's not a discriminatory feature. It doesn't help me understand who would be good, who would be bad. But yes, someone who has a lot of gaming apps, less number of banking apps, tends to not store many contacts for more than 30 days in the phone. Oh, that could become a pattern. But just having a gambling app on the phone doesn't mean you would default on your loan. So it's important to build combinations of these attributes and assess and evaluate them against the behavior patterns demonstrated by defaulters, but not by the good ones. So if anything is spread commonly across all customers, it is not a bad thing. It doesn't help me differentiate whether you would be good or bad. So that's how we build these models in a very simplistic way. We suss out and analyze those unique behavior patterns and combinations that differentiate a bad customer from a good customer. And as we keep getting more performance data, the algorithms and the models get more refined and we get more accurate on our ability to predict the outcome.
So Tarun, if you're doing this type of modeling and you're able to predict more about the willingness to repay, what are typical data sources that you would recommend we link this data with to get an angle on the ability to repay?
Yeah. So I think there are many data sources out there, and that is why we touched upon in the webinar that alternate data is not a new thing. There is wallet spend data, there's utility bill payment data, there's telco data. So each of those, there was earlier, psychometric data. Nobody talks about it now because it lost its relevance. But what is very important to see the timeline of alternate data sources is they have a spike in their relevance, and then they fade out till another source of data becomes very predictive. Of late, the last few years and for the next few years, smartphone-based behavioral data has become the most important source because they say if there's anyone who knows you the most, that's your smartphone. So all of a sudden, all about in there is becoming more and more predictive. However, telco data, utility bill payment data, and your e-wallet or wallet spend data is as important when combined with this score to get a holistic view.
Oh, thanks for that guidance. So for example, then of course I would go, okay, thanks, Drew. Now I got to go back to Riaz. Okay, Riaz. So I've got his alternative data coming from the phone. You can help me automate it, but there are probably some partnerships I need to set up to get that data. So maybe if I'm the incumbent, I need to partner or set up an API to a payment wallet or something like that. So Riaz, now I'm back on your doorstep. How do I pull everything together and link that ability, willingness to repay data kind of in this automated API-driven environment?